cool joke. It was funny. It's disgusting.
Is it more or less disgusting if I tell you it came from the front?
All right, right off the bat, let's make something clear. I do not think Ghostbusters 2016 is the worst film ever. Now, maybe there's one last basement dweller out there who's like, how dare you? But let's be real. For this job, I've had to sit through Garbage Pail Kids, Cat in the Hat, Master of Disguise, Son of the Mask, and Playing with Fire. And if you want to tell me with a straight face that Ghostbusters 2016 is legitimately worse than any of those, you're brave. Stupid, but brave. Oh, it's not the worst movie ever made. Hell, it's not even the worst film of 2016. Odds are you just didn't go out of your way to see Norm of the North, Nine Lives, or Boo, A Medea Halloween. So what is Ghostbusters 2016? Well, put simply, it's just a thing that happened. Like, it's so stunningly bland, so manufactured by studio notes and market analysis, that it's the cinematic equivalent of baby food.
Innocuous, childproof, flavorless mush!
It's not the worst thing ever, but for all the screaming that went down on Twitter, it is shocking how little of a long-term impact it left on that summer. It's a footnote on cinema, mostly because of the useless whining of a bunch of keyboard warriors with too much time on their hands who ripped the film a new one, or defended it as if this multi-million-dollar non-event could alter the course of human events. Of course, it's 4 years later, and we've learned our lesson. No, we're not going to fall for the same traps that the studios, social media, partisan nutjobs, and cable news networks set out for us every year, and I know, right? I just can't even. It's too funny. Oh, we're f***ed. But with time comes perspective, and I thought, you know what? Maybe I should take a second look. Hell, maybe even it got better. Who knows? Maybe this is an easy fix. So I threw the movie on and something interesting happened. I fell asleep. Yeah, no joke. My wife, who still refuses to watch the movie, by the way, found me on the couch and woke me up. It was then and there I realized, maybe I bit off more than I could chew. Ugh, this movie, it doesn't make me angry. It's not awful. It's just dull. Duller than watching Paint Dry to Spelling Bee hosted by Ben Stein.
Bueller?
Once I woke up, I kind of sat there on the couch and rubbed my eyes for a bit. What the hell was I gonna do? I mean, where do I start with this? And that's the weird thing about this movie. There's no one thing that tanks the film. Nothing I can point to and say, well, just fix this. No, it's a lot of little things. Alone, any one of them could probably be fine. The movie could survive. But when you start adding them up, it's death from 1,000 paper cuts. So no, I'm not going to do our usual routine and give you whole rewritten scenes with dialogue and everything. There's just kinda too much to cover. Instead, I want to scale down the problems to the few biggest offenders, and then offer a treatment of what a Ghostbusters rewrite might look like. So let's look at what I feel the biggest issues with this movie are. Here they are. Miscasting, too many pointless celebrity cameos, the Ghostbusters inhabit a cartoon world, and tone problems. Okay, one thing I wouldn't change is the all-female Ghostbusters lineup. Yeah, there was a vocal minority that was all like,
Oh my god! Broads? In my Ghostbusters movie? What's this world coming to?
but I have no problem with the Ghostbusters being women. Why? Because it was the only vaguely original thing in this whole mess. That said, let's examine the film's first problem. Number 1. Too many people are cast in the wrong roles. Now, I'm not saying I have a problem with Kate McKinnon, Melissa McCarthy, Leslie Jones, and Kristen Wiig. I don't. I've seen all 4 of these women be very funny in other projects. But as it stands, McKinnon was the only one making me laugh. Hands down, she's the scene stealer, and without her, I think this movie would offer nothing. Melissa McCarthy is more of a mixed bag. At first I was kinda meh on her performance, I didn't really see her as much of a Ray Stantz type, but on a second viewing she really grew on me. Honestly, I like her enthusiasm and heart. It's kind of a retread of her role on Gilmore Girls, but it works. I just wish the script gave her more to do. This leaves Kristen Wiig and Leslie Jones, and woof, did this movie not do right by these two. Let's start with Leslie Jones. You know, it's ironic that for all the keyboard warriors who tried to stake a claim for or against Leslie Jones, few people seem to have a problem with the fact that her role is a giant stereotype. Paul Feig said he wanted this to be a breakout role for her, so we go with a stock, sassy, black transit lady? Are there no other roles in Ghostbusters? Like, why that? Oh, right, because we need a Winston, and Winston was black, so clearly she must be Winston. It's just such a serious case of not thinking outside the box. What's to stop her from playing the Ray Stantz role? She has the enthusiasm and the heart, or if you really want to give her a breakout role, she should be Venkman. I mean, that was the whole setup of the original movie. You had the heart, the brains, and the mouth, and Jones clearly has the energy to be the mouth. She should be the saleswoman. Savvy, street smart, and a clever marketer. Let her be the one that keeps the other two grounded. Make her the linchpin of the original trio. Hell, rumor has it that Eddie Murphy might have been up for the Venkman role in the '84 film, so there's precedent that this idea is plausible. This leaves Kristen Wiig, who is easily the most miscast actor in the film. I have no idea what Kristen Wiig is doing here, and I'm not even sure she does. Technically, it's the Venkman role, but it's had all the personality removed. She's like a loaf of Wonder Bread wrapped in a wet blanket. There's just nothing there but, oh my god, my tenure, my job. Even their attempts to make her flirty lack the edge of the original. Boy, I would have had a blast watching a woman sleaze it up like Bill Murray did. But turnaround isn't fair play, apparently. That's not a role model for our girls. Just turn her into a Disney character. So, yeah, without the conviction to write a sleazy Venkman role, you could only cast Wiig as Winston. And it would actually work. She'd be the most normal one, the one they use for plot exposition, and the one who comes in later and reacts to all the insanity. Speaking of insane, let's talk about Kevin. This movie has a bizarre hard-on for Chris Hemsworth, and I just don't get it. Like, it's painfully obvious that Feig clearly thinks Hemsworth is one of the funniest actors to ever walk the earth, and every scene he's in is just pure gold, but it's not. And don't get me wrong, I love him in other movies, but this role has some bottom-of-the-barrel writing. He's just dumb to the level that would make Mr. Bean look like Stephen Hawking. I remember explaining this to my wife, and the literal first words out of her mouth were, "But Janine was smart." I replied, "I know, right?" I told my wife that they should have made him a Dolph Lundgren type, who looks and sounds like a lunkhead, but really is a smart guy with a master's degree in chemical engineering or something. I don't know if that's a fantastic alternative, but my wife found it funny anyway. I could see that creating some humorous tension. After all, Janine was always tossed aside in the original, but she was well-read and resented not being taken seriously by people like Venkman. Okay, I think that just covers about everybody, and then, oh yeah, the villain. I forgot about the villain, because nobody remembers the villain. Like, in a series that gave us a red-eyed Yugoslavian fashion model with a flat top flanked by terror dogs and a Carpathian warrior wizard straight out of Castlevania, does anybody remember this guy? I get they wanted to do this whole he was a bullied nerd thing, but even then there's nothing really compelling about him. Go watch Paranorman if you want to see a ghost story where they actually did this bullied victim becomes the villain concept right. This is just boring, and I don't want to crap on Neil Casey, his performance is fine. It's just, they forgot to give him something to perform. Why not aim a little higher? How about, I don't know, bringing in Ivo Shandor? It's a reboot, right? Not a remake. You can toss things around. Unlike the '84 film or the video game, have Shandor be alive and well in 21st century New York City. Maybe he's like the inverse of the Ghostbusters, a male tech whiz who runs a giant telecommunications conglomerate. Only, you know, he's evil, like every one of those a-holes. Maybe he's using 21st century technology to channel psychic energy while the Ghostbusters are using theirs to stop it. This puts the women in a much more precarious position because they're up against a real threat. And the commentary is already written into it. These plucky startup underdogs are taking on a villain from the corporate male-dominated world of big business itself. You could update Eva to be anything from a young Bill Skarsgård to a creepy Cillian Murphy type, or an older Christoph Waltz, or maybe even, I don't know, Charles Dance, since you wasted him as a bit role for the Dean. Something. Anything. And if you want a supernatural being he can resurrect, why not Samhain, or Samhain if you want the correct pronunciation, whatever the movie wants to call him. It still boggles my mind that this franchise has been sitting on such a great spectral villain for 2 sequels in a row. Forget Gozer and Zool, we've done that. I rolled my eyes the second they brought up old Zoolie in the end credits. Nothing would fit this universe better than the Dark Lord of Halloween itself. I mean, talk about something the cartoon got really right. How do you top this? Not with another retread of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, I can tell you that much. Okay, problem number 2. Those cheesy original cast cameos. You don't need them. Get rid of them. With extreme prejudice. If this movie is really supposed to be about empowering women, then why the hell are we ramming the original dudes down the audience's throat? And it's not just that they're distracting, they're just really cringy. This movie is so desperate to milk nostalgia that nearly every scene needs to have a painful callback.
What do you want?
Did you see? She did the thing! She said the thing! It's that thing from the original! And while Bill Murray's performance is just, it's Aykroyd's performance that gets it the worst.
I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
God, I hope that was a lame studio note. Because any screenwriter who typed that on their keyboard thinking this is great should lose their union card. I think the only one who came out of this with any dignity was Ernie Hudson. And good on him. I love the guy. I actually bought that he was Leslie Jones's uncle. Hell, I probably could have done with more of him. Can't say the same for Sigourney Weaver, who I also love in just about anything, but is just wasted here in the end credits with this Dexter's Lab shtick. This takes us to problem number 3. The Ghostbusters inhabit a cartoon world. Now, this is something I really didn't think about till a second viewing, but am I the only one who finds it odd this whole reboot universe is just a giant cartoon? I know that sounds weird since the original movie had a 60-foot marshmallow man, but I'm not talking about the cartoony ghosts. I mean the whole universe. One of the secret ingredients that made the original film work was the magical realism of watching all these zany ghosts and tech and jargon occupy our reality. And I mean our reality. Not a Scooby-Doo reality, but the real world. And that's where a lot of the comedy comes from. The Ghostbusters themselves may be like the Marx Brothers, but everybody else around them plays it straight. Well, maybe not Rick Moranis, he's the odd one out. However, you kinda need that because Sigourney Weaver plays a cool opposite of him. But the mayor, the dean, the librarian, Peck, Janine, the cops, the Con Ed guy, the manager of the hotel, the guy waiting at the elevator, hell, Winston, they all feel real. Sure, some like Peck may be over the top, but let's face it, we've all met a guy like this. Contrast that with the new movie where every side character feels like they dropped out of a quirky rom-com or some long-lost Nickelodeon movie, and it just doesn't feel authentic. How are these 4 women supposed to stick out when everyone is just so damn goofy? Which brings us to the final problem. Number 4. This movie has no idea who it's for, and it permeates every single aspect of the film. Like, is this a kid's movie? Is it an adult movie? Is it a clean movie? Or a raunchy movie? Is it a reboot or is it a remake? Is it something new or is it trading on nostalgia? Is this a highbrow project or a lowbrow project? Hell, if anybody knows, because I don't think the creators did. And that makes for one hell of an unfocused project. And before anybody tries to say, well, so was the original film, that's not true. Ivan Reitman made it very clear that he saw this as a going-into-business story with 3 guys, the heart, the brains, and the mouth, and that they occupied a real world which was taken, much like the audience, one baby step at a time into utter absurdity. So you start off with 3 grungy guys getting kicked out of university and end up with a 60-foot marshmallow man in the final act. Look it up, it's all there in the film's commentary. And none of that is on display here. If anything, this reboot probably resembles Aykroyd's original undoctored version of the '84 script, which had the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man on like page 40 and would have cost $200 million back in the day. Well, thanks to CGI, we can do that now, and kinda did, but it doesn't make it a better movie. In fact, part of this movie's problem is that it's trying to be everything to everyone, and that smacks of Sony, who already destroyed 2 of their Spider-Man franchises by trying to do pretty much the same thing. Of course Sony would obsess over the film being family-friendly, while forgetting that Ghostbusters was never a kid's film to begin with. That's right, let me repeat that for some of you in the back. Ghostbusters is not a kid's movie. It never was, and it never will be. It just got latched onto by kids, and that's probably what destroyed the franchise more than anything, because since then it's had all the edge sucked out of it. And credit where credit's due, that started with Ghostbusters 2, not the reboot. But after years of toys and cartoons, we forget that the original was about a bunch of hard-drinking, chain-smoking, foul-mouthed crazies and con artists who go so far as to get sexual gratification from a ghost. And man, if the reboot wanted to reverse the roles and give me that would have been interesting. But you can't have a girl power movie if, the girls aren't perfect, apparently. So instead, we've got some watered-down, bizarro reverse gender version of the team. No edge, no attitude, but they make a fart joke? Oh, I forgot, it came out the front. There's your PG-13 rating, folks. And the most bizarre thing about this is that they hired Paul Feig in the first place. Like, why hire a guy known for a slew of R-rated comedies if you're not gonna let him do his thing? And on that note, why repeat so much of the '84 film? Seriously, this movie wastes so much time trying to hit the original film note for note that it has little room for it to breathe at all. It's just a rote paint-by-number retread. So, what do you want, Sony? Something fresh, or just a drunken romp with nostalgia goggles? I can only imagine Sony's reply was, yes. And the end result is that the film becomes a little bit of everything but a master of nothing. Adults are essentially watching a Scooby-Doo film, and kids? God, the fun of the original film was that you felt like you were getting away with something, like you were being let in on the fun. You might not have gotten every joke as a kid, but you knew something shady was going on, and there were some good scares. Felt like one of those childhood rites of passage. This reboot? Any kid could like it just fine, but it's not going to resonate. Likely it'll go in one ear and out the other. And maybe it's just me, but I feel like girls deserve something beyond the bland and disposable. Maybe something that aims a little higher than, it's okay, I guess. I don't know. Okay, so, where does that leave us? If I was handed a blank check and told to fix this, what kind of a plot would we end up with?